Hello, welcome, Fish here with another DCS Essential Guide to the F18. And in this one we're going to look at the JSOW AGM 154. And first of all we're going to look at it using pre-planned targets. And you can see here on Abu Musa Island in the Persian Gulf, I've got two groups of vehicles here, and I've got waypoints set up for both of these. As waypoint 2 and waypoint 3, and to note, I've set the altitude correctly based on the altitude on the ground for those waypoints, so they'll come up in the correct location, and that's very important in order to make the attack accurate. So let's jump into the pit now. Okay, we're in the pit now, and I'm going to set ourselves up with autopilot. We're heading at 295. And I'm going to increase our speed a little bit. So we can see our weapons page on the left hand side, and we can see we have the Charlie and the Alpha variant of the AGM 154s. And we're going to select the Alpha variant, which is the cluster bomb type. And I'm going to click our air to ground mode, and we can see the JSAs are in standby, and we have a timing. We have a timing down to warm up the weapon, so we can't release until that timer runs down. We will get a cue to tell us that it's ready. So we can see by default we have on push button 5 we have the PP mode, and we're going to leave that as is, and we're going to come over to the display JSOW, which gives us the options for configuring the weapon. You can see the timer is timing out, and the overall quality is increasing, so that number goes down. So we're on station 7, and I'm going to step to station 3. I like to do the lower station first. And we're going to click on push button 4, which is the mission page, MSN. And we have a number of options for putting our target data in here. We have 5 options here, and each of those contain 2 slots. So I click the first one, and we can see the 2 slots are T1 and T2. We're going to leave it by default at T1. And the first thing I'm going to do is go into UFC and go to the height of function on the UFC and set it to 800. You can set this to anything you wish. And once that's done, now I'm going to set up my target point for that, and I'm going to go to waypoint 3, and I'm going to select push button 14 here to make that waypoint a target point, and you can see the symbology for the AGM 154s comes up on the screen there, and we've also got some coordinate data coming up for that target point. So that weapon is set and good. And now we're going to return, and we're going to do the same thing for station 7, and I'm going to step through using OSB 13 or push button 13, and we can see we have station 7, timing is still going down. And we're going to click on the mission page once again, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to actually, what I've got to do is I've got to select the station or the slot for it. So I'm going to click on PP2, and I'm going to click it twice, and I'm going to leave it at T001. So now if we click on the UFC, we're going to get the height of function, set it to 800, enter. And lastly, I'm going to push back to 0.2, waypoint 2, and make that target point. Once that's the target point now, it comes up again on the screen, and we have the coordinates already there. So we're pretty much set. And if we cycle through the different stations, if I just zoom in here and step, we can see, can just about see a slight movement of the location, and if you look at the coordinates and we step, you can see they are different for each one. So we're set now with those bombs, and I can return there, And we're gone too far into the loop. We're actually in range now. We're actually in range, so we can fire the weapon. So I'm going to give it a go. Just zoom out there a little bit. So I'm going to give it a go. We're on station 7, so I'm going to swap over to station 3, and I'm going to pickle. One is away, and I'm going to wait a couple of seconds before I release the second one. I want them to be separated slightly. We don't have to do this. Okay, pickle, second one away, and I can now safely turn away from the target area. And now let's have a look outside. So we can see the first one. It's heading towards the first location there, at the end of the runway. And we're going to watch the action from the second weapon, which is going to the other end of the runway. So there we go, our first weapon has deployed successfully. And our second weapon is deployed successfully. And now we're back in the pit. So just to summarise, that's the way to release more than one of the JDAMs at a time, and that's probably the way they're most likely to be used. And these are pre-planned targets, so once you have a pre-planned target you can assign them in that way. And in a similar way, if you have mark points, you can do exactly the same. And if you have more loaded on, I think you can do up to 8, given that you have an option for 10 slots for pre-planned targets within the computer. So we're going to move on now, and we're going to have a look at a target of opportunity, and we're going to do the same thing again. Okay, this time we're going to attack the target of opportunity using the JSA, and we're going to select 2 weapons at the same time, and we're going to release both simultaneously on the target. And we're going to designate a target using the FLIR, and we're carrying a Lightning II pod. So let's switch on our air-to-ground mode and start configuring our JSAs. So I'm going to select it as before, and you can see we have 3 and 7 are our stations, exactly as we had before. We're going to change, so we're going to start on the port side, and we're going to change the mode to TOO from push button 5 and push button 3 for the fusing instant. And then I'm going to step using push button 13 to station 7, and we're going to change the mode to TOO and fusing to instant. Now we're going to go to push button 12 on the JSOW display page, and we are going to select the mission page, and you can see we've already got a target slot and we've got no targeting information in there. We're going to switch on our flare on our left MFCD and switch it into flare mode, and we're going to drop an altitude to get a visual on our target area. So on designate twice to park the sensor on the FLIR. Sensor switch up to make the HUD sensor of interest, and target designate to get the cursor on the HUD and slave it to the FLIR. So move it into roughly into position that I expect, and make the flare the sensor of interest. Now once we designated there, we got a target there, so we're going to have to redesignate that because that's not correct. So we're going to start zooming in, get some detail of where the targets are, and we're looking towards the end of the runway. Change the field of view to narrow, and now we can see our targets coming up there. And this time our standoff range is going to be a bit closer because we have to get an accurate picture of the target, and we're going to do that visually using the FLIR. We have a cloud cover here which is low, so we can't really take a high altitude. On the left hand side, I'm going to just return, and we're going to set the quantity to both stations, the station 3 and station 7, and if we go back to the mission page now, whatever we do on this page will apply for both of those stations. So we're zoomed in as far as we can go on that target. There are 15 miles to target, so we're going to close in a little more before we fully designate. Just speed up a little bit here to give a bit of distance, and now we're going to try and get a designation somewhere in the middle there. So designate now, and we're going to use that location where we've got free to fire now, so we're in range, and I'm going to pickle, and there are 2 bombs are away, so I'm going to turn away from the target. I'm not going to move the designation, although it does make one bit of difference now because the information is being programmed into those bombs. So zoom out to get a better picture of what's going on. And let's look at our weapons. We can see the 2 of them there tracking in together. They're going to land very closely. That's the first strike. Well, they were very close together, so it's probably both strikes there. So that looks like a decent hit on those targets. So the JSA Charlie variant work in exactly the same way, except that they are penetration bombs. So the fusing is slightly different, and we don't have a height of function on them. Now there is options here. I don't for changing the approach angle, the dive angle, and the terminal velocity, and I don't view those as essential, and I'm not sure, I haven't got them to work successfully, but I don't think they're essential features of you don't need them to be able to deploy these weapons successfully. So I hope you found this video useful and interesting, and feel free to like, dislike, subscribe and comment, and until the next time, this is Fish Out, and thank you for watching.